Moving forward for our last panel of the day before our reward session, let's tackle a subject that's crucial, yet often shrouded in silence, especially in the high-stakes world of corporate leadership. I'm talking about our next panel discussion, Breaking the Silence, encouraging open conversations about mental health in C-suite roles. In this session, our panelists will open up about the importance of mental health awareness at the highest levels of leadership. Please welcome Anna Pinedo, founder, vice president, and CEO of Whole Mind Symphony, as our moderator for this session and panelists on the stage.
Okay, now all the panelists, please come up.
Wait, did you want to sit over here? Here, sit up there. Yes. All right, go.
The issue today is so vast, right? And I am supposed to be on the health conference, but I was invited to be on this panel, and I'm honored to collaborate with whatever, I can with my experience. Whole Mind Symphony is a nonprofit, right? And I'm the vice president CEO, and I had to create this company because I have 2 sons with schizophrenia. And I've been navigating the mental health system for 13 years. And I left my profession and my career as a filmmaker to learn everything about this other world, right? And there's so much to say about this that I would like to address each of us, our own background. And one thing that's important to reflect today is the people who are here are leaders, right? You all have this capacity to change things. You are the innovators, and you are the pioneers, and you are leading the change. So the change we do now is what you're going to see in the future. So you have to think about being conscious of your responsibility on all the changes, and changes are threatening, because people are afraid of losing power. And but if we don't do it, what kind of world we're going to be facing? Because we are already facing an epidemic of mental health, and it was not caused by COVID because the issues were there before. But once people had to go home and stay home, they kind of experience in themselves all that thing, because everybody gets distracted every day with tons of different stimulus, and you keep going until you start breaking down, and you don't know why you're breaking down. And then you feel shame to share that, because if you share that, how gonna people look at you? What kind of image? Because everything's about image, right? And then what it comes is like, just to say briefly, I have 2 sons in their 30s, and as a mother, you think, okay, they're gonna get their life together, they're gonna go to school, they're gonna get their jobs, they're gonna have their, and then all of a sudden everything changes. Their life was stopped, interrupted at 19 years old, all their dreams. And for them to build back, what is my place in society? I like what they brought up in the last panel about disability, because it changes, it totally changes. And your perspective can change from one day to the other if you lose everything. So is this society that we live that is all about you have to be complete if you own things, and so people feel depleted. And so here we're going to be talking about how can you feel complete without owning external material things. So let's go back to introduction of every person in this panel, and thank you for having me.
So my name is Laura Sultan. I'm the CEO and founder of Designs by Nature Gems, a handmade luxury crystal jewelry company. We have grown from, the handmade crystals I made and sold at art shows to winning the Stevie Awards for fastest growing company in 2022. Thank you. And I share that to kind of underlie the point of what I'm about to say. You can be aware of mental health in C-suite positions. You can be aware of mental health with authenticity. The other panel I came from was authentic marketing and ethics. You can do all that, but you have to do it with awareness, and you have to do it with, I hate to say it, profitability. So I'm coming from a very different perspective. Mental health to me is a huge deal. Like probably every single person in this room, there is heavy effects. I've had my ups, I've had my downs. I've had to take care of my mom as a child. All of us have stories, and every story is valid, for sure. But when you get into business, it becomes a balance of profitability, brand tone, because that's what you're known as. Your face is out there. How much are you going to show? Why? Who? How? And of course, the balance of mental health. What's enough PTO? How can you create inclusive spaces? To what degree can you create an inclusive space versus someone else? And all this together is the conversation. So I'm going to try to take on that voice just as we go on.
I'm going to call Mark because he's going to be here a short time. So.
My name is Mark Flitzwhite. I am the president and CEO of EdKey Inc. We are the most unique and diverse group of charter schools anywhere in the world. We have schools for survivors of sex trafficking, for homeless students, for deaf and hard of hearing. We have fine arts. We have high-end athletes. So 22 different schools, 22 different missions and visions, and we build our schools based on what the communities need, not what our needs are as an organization. We come in as a support structure, and mental health plays a huge part in a lot of the things that we do. When you look at what schools are cutting nowadays, they're cutting shop, counselors. Wood shop and counselors, they've disappeared from schools. Think about what we've been through over the last few years with schools closing down, students not starting school on time. The challenges that we're facing right now with students and parents, because they saw what was going on in some of the classrooms and they didn't like it. They want that school choice. They want the opportunity to be able to choose what's best for their children. And the students need that additional support. So I'm up here just saying, go out, do the best you can, and help support your schools, your local schools, whether they're public, private, or charter, it doesn't matter. We need the help. We need the assistance from the communities as a whole, and we'll do the best we can to educate and help keep mental health in check.
Yay.
Okay,
So I'm gonna scoot off the stage.
Okay,
so
fine. You're excused.
We
Okay.
couldn't join in the end.
Sherry.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Sherry James, and I have a great segue to Mark's introduction. So I survived 30 years of corporate America, and you know, a lot of us laugh about that, but a lot of women, specifically, from my experience, that were the higher up we went in the ranks in our organizations, the less people we could talk to about our stressors. So at the end of my 30-year career between HR, IT, and project management, I decided to create a solution. The PMP is part of that, right? Because we can't have a problem without a solution. And so I created a curriculum that we can teach to children as young as 5 years old about how to become mentally wealthy. It's a different perspective. We have to change the paradigm. And I just partnered with a app company in Canada, and we're going to create an app called Creating Mental Wealth, and it's a peer app. So you will talk to another peer that's your own age, that's going through the same thing, because as therapists and professionals, we don't have enough help, but we always can listen to each other and support each other. So again, I teach people to be mentally wealthy, but our #1 goal is to get in front of suicide and self-harm. And sadly, the age of suicides for first attempt is 10. And so I refuse to keep looking and watching. I created a solution. And I did receive an award earlier today. And so for those of you that were here, I dedicated that to my dad, who died of suicide when I was 7, a Vietnam vet, and my mom, who also died of suicide when I was 27. So I've been navigating corporate America as a disabled Black woman in the state of Texas. And if I can do it, you can do it.
Amazing. Can you hear me? My
Yep.
mic's on? Awesome. Hey, everybody. How's the energy out there? I know it's late. Woo! Thank you for joining us to talk about something that we really need to break the silence on. So my name is Alicia Hewitt Miller. I'm a COVID-born entrepreneur. So we want to talk about mental health for sure, but also being a COVID-born entrepreneur, I'll always be a serial entrepreneur. I'll never put all my eggs in one basket. I learned that. So I'm the owner founder of Alicia Squared HR and Marketing Consulting. So I offer independent consulting to small businesses and entrepreneurs that don't have in-house HR and all of that. My whole premise is culture. The culture is going to set the tone for how we're able to talk about mental health in an organization, whether it's 1 people, 2 people, or, you know, big, huge corporations with C-suite executives and everything. So it needs to be talked about at every level. And I survived 15 years in corporate America. So when I left my 15-year corporate America career in February of 2020 and then launched independently in March of 2020, it was quite a shock to the system, as I'm sure you experienced as well. And especially with mental health being all on you as an entrepreneur, it's been a wild ride. So I'm also owner-founder of NoCo Living Water and Wellness. If you've been enjoying any of that electrolytes reduced water out there today, that's my company. So I also just founded a 501c3 called Have You Ever Loved an Addict? So that's part of my story that I'll be talking as we continue on the panel. But I'm all about this. It's time. You know, when I started in corporate America at 19, it's changed drastically. It's changed drastically. And I was just thinking about a story today when the other panel was going. It reminded me about a time that I actually got written up for crying where somebody could see me after my grandmother died. And I just got to thinking about that and how much of an impact and trauma and all of that and triggering that was. And so just being able to step out and be a breaker of silence for those who need it. So.
And the water's amazing. Yeah. And since we're going to drink after this, you might want to grab some water.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Janine.
Thank you. My name is Janine Hamner-Holman, and I am the CEO of the J&J Consulting Group. And we are what's known as an organizational development consulting group. And sort of what that means is we help organizations deal with change management. We help them deal with leadership development and training and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and all of those kinds of things. Recently, I've been working with a couple of organizations specifically around resilience, and not just resilience for the organization, but resilience for the individuals in the organization. And you know, in this conversation around mental health, so I spent my first 18 years working for nonprofit organizations, then went to work for a Fortune 200 company and actually left. I don't tell this story very much, but I left because I'd been being bullied by my boss for 8 years. And I had actually gone to my doctor and said, I need help. You need to put me on antidepressants. And he said, actually, no, I need to put you out on immediate medical leave. And, you know, yeah, you're going to go on antidepressants and talk therapy and all the things, but you're in crisis. And I said, can I think about it? And he said, if I told you you had cancer, would you say, can I think about it?
Yes, that's
right. But we live in this world where there are all of these myths and stigma around mental health. And so I was like, well, you know, I need to think about whether or not I'm at the verge of adrenal burnout and can't function well anymore because I've been being bullied for 8 years. And eventually he broke through and I went out on medical leave for 6 months and then was actually thinking about going back. Right? Because that's what you do. That's especially what good girls do. We were having this conversation over lunch, the way that girls are socialized. You know, so like you get better and then you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, another ridiculous myth, and you go back to work. And my father stepped in and said, you are not going back to that place with what they did to you. You know, and any organization, I mean, they've got 44,000 employees. There's always going to be some managers who are amazing and some managers, you know, not so much. So has nothing to do with the organization, but a lot of what I do is work with organizations on organizational culture. And, you know, our organizational culture is only as good as the worst among us that the organization allows to stay and allows to continue to perpetuate whatever it is that they're perpetuating. So that's where I come in and work with organizations.
Sorry,
Yes, please.
I wanted to piggyback because I have the other side to that.
Yeah.
Right? So before this, I was a teacher for a decade. I focused on at-risk youth, math, and science because I was creative and artistic. The idea was to help out. Sure enough, I knew I would get burnout. I lasted about 7-8 years. I'm proud of myself. And then I hit burnout.
Well, I feel bad about my 30, huh?
There ain't no shame.
And the reason I'm trying to show this is I don't come from traditional corporate America. From there, I started to do the art, doing my jewelry. Then I was like, hey, let's see if I can do this as a business. But because I came from that, and because of also I said, you know, when I was a child, I took care of my mom. The idea of mental health was a core of what I built. And I think that's the flip side. I'm not from a big corporation of 44,000 employees, and dear Lord, congratulations, thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm from a team that's like 20.
Yeah.
Ranges between 10 and 20, depending what's going on. We are young, we're like under 5 years. So we range. Anyways, but the thing with the team is from the beginning, the structures in place talk about mental health. The managers are trained under me as a teacher, and then on top of it, there's inclusivity training that's going to be coming in. The idea, because God knows, and none of us knows everything, so that's needed. And the point behind that is if you put it in from the beginning, and you train the managers, and you train your execs, and you train the leaders, and you keep it calm. That's probably one of the biggest things that I make sure that always happens, is it's calm. I give a lot of PTO for the type of job I do. I mean, technically it's manufacturing, right? Handmade and manufacturing. I think the least amount of PTO I give is like 40 or 60 hours for a first-year employee. Yeah. Then they get vacation pay and everything else that's, you know, required. Again, I'm in Canada, but I would do it anyways because I do believe in it.
I was like, oh.
But full transparency. What I'm trying to get at, try to keep it calm, keep it acceptable. I know when people are having a bad day, but they don't, the nickname in my head, it's not the best word, is they don't bleed. They get to go home or they get to keep to themselves. We know it's what it is. But unless they're comfortable to come talk to you, it's none of your business. And that's part of the calmness. And so I've been blessed by seeing the benefits of mental health in the workplace. I see a team that stayed with me most of the time. We had a major algorithm change last year that literally caused over 70% overnight, sorry, see, I'm getting tired. Overnight, losing 70% of our revenue, like that. And we made it through, but we had to let go of people. A few people volunteered less hours, saying, when you're ready, you hire me back up higher. A few people have emailed still saying, hey, you ready for me to come back? The loyalty we have, AKA, I'm going to jump into that business word, profitability. The loyalty we have of maintaining these relationships with the teams we've built and the appreciation they have for me, because I've been thanked and I really appreciate when it happens because, you know, higher at the top, the more lonely it gets.
Yep.
So those mean a lot. And the appreciation they have for each other, it's huge. And the money, and again, I won an award for fastest growing company. I'm a jewelry maker. The point is speaking for itself. And so integrating it from the beginning when you have the ability to is key. Because then all of a sudden you have loyalty. You're not losing money on all retraining someone from the beginning over and over and over and over. Because, you know, they have a right to quit if, you know,
turnover is not profitable.
No, there you go. Thank
Turnover
you.
is quite not profitable.
Yes.
And actually, I'm not a soapbox, so I'm going to step back.
Great way to self-identify. That's awesome. But I agree with you. I think when we change our mindset about mental health, because even if you're like, I go see a therapist.
Yeah.
I have a TV show called Creating Mental Wealth, and people were like, "Oh, wait, what? Like, you're creating what?" I choose in whatever situation I'm in, even though I am Black and bald and a woman and disabled and over 50. I left that one out. Just because I'm single also, so you never know. Check back with me tomorrow. But mental wealth is something that I can own, right? And I can teach a child as young as 5 years old to say, this interaction for me fills my bank. And then you have them write it down. Okay, well, because one day they're going to come home and they're going to have a bad day. One day they're going to go off to college and they're not going to have the words to articulate, oh my gosh, this is my first college exam. What is this feeling? Why am I sweating? Well, no one ever talked to them about anxiety, test anxiety. And no one talked to them, ironically, hence the green pants, about their money, right? So what I do is I've created an opportunity to say, you can be mentally wealthy if you keep track of, anybody here old enough to remember checkbooks? Just
Yes,
me?
ma'am.
Okay. Oh, yeah, it's not just me.
No.
So imagine if you had a checkbook, and in the morning when you woke up, you're like, you know what, this morning I feel like $1 million. I didn't this morning, by the way, but if I did, I write down how much I feel. Now, somebody cuts me off in traffic, which I'm sure never happens in Vegas. It happens in Dallas all the time. And you want to go like, oh my gosh, you cut me off. Now you've taken a withdrawal from my mental wealth bank. But did they? Because they didn't hit me. I didn't hit them. I'm still safe. I'm still on my way. So I choose in that moment not to be withdrawn from. Mm-hmm. I have the power to control my mental wealth. And then as my peers and the guy, whoever I'll meet tonight, as a partner, then he can also understand, like, hey, the conversation we just had, was that a mental wealth withdrawal for you or a deposit? Things like these become interest-bearing opportunities, right? So if we could change the paradigm, if you don't remember anything else that I ever said, you have the power to become mentally wealthy. Just think of yourself as an ATM. You can deposit, withdraw, or check your balance. That's it. And so
there's the culture of environment that you brought up. It's so important because I think we're expected to do a lot of things. There's a lot of expectation, you know, of who you need to be in this world, you know, and that creates, there's a culture of competition. You have to be better than that one to survive, right? This is very old Darwin stuff that doesn't fit anymore. So how do you shift from a culture of competition to a culture of collaboration? Just think about, you have a tiger coming towards you. If you are in a group, you're going to share the responsibility and manage that problem differently. One person is going to make the noise for the tiger to be distracted. Another one picks up a rock. The other one improvises a torch. The other one lights the torch. So you have a group working together, collaborating, and get away from the danger. And that's the kind of mindset that we need to go into. Not like you are different than me and I'm fighting you because I'm better or I'm worse than you, and compare yourself, which is another destructive thing that social media brought up, and it's killing teenagers because they start with comparison things. You know, I don't have this, I don't have that, I don't have, and come back to, what do I own? You know, what do I have? And I'll go back into that because the most important thing we have is the air we breathe, right? And the heart that beats, and that's out of our control. Somebody is pushing that air inside our nostrils, and our heart is beating since we were born, you know, and we don't do anything about it. It's somebody is running that heart for us, and we need to be grateful to everything we had, starting with that, and stop comparing, and stop asking, do I fit or I don't fit? It's just finding that if you start thinking, it's a mindset.
Can I jump in? Because I really want to connect these two before too much space goes. You're talking about very validly, the outside. And it sounds like you're talking about the internal.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to put two different words on this just to kind of try to connect them too. So you used the word environment. An environment is physical, it's emotional, it's social, and obviously there's a lot of aspects to it. And the thing that comes to the environment is no matter what, there is the inside, which I use the word in my head, accountability, mental wealth. And you can live in these environments and you can try to change them. But I believe you can't change everything. There is still chaos. I was meant to be here yesterday at 3 p.m. having a nice relaxing day. I have 2 kids at home. I was like, woo! I got in at 11:40 p.m. All the restaurants were closed. I was hangry this morning. I didn't have control. And that's okay. But what I do have is my own accountability. What I do have is a mental wealth transaction. There you go. Which I link in my head to a bigger version of a gratitude journal. That's kind of the way I do it. But I have that. And so in the moment of mental health, we have the reality of what is, but we can't change it all. But we can do what we can, absolutely. And we have accountability, mental wealth, and it's really where you want to put your energy. Where do you want to put your energy? And then try. And then fall off and mess it up and get really angry and rant and shout and do all of it. And breathe. And try again. And the point is to create a habit. Because the biggest thing we can do is habits. One of you guys should please add on.
Yeah, and I want to plus you.
Thank you.
So one of the things that I love about this whole conversation that we're having here is that and we're theoretically having a conversation about breaking the silence in the C-suite.
Of course.
And so part of what I get to do is work with folks in the C-suite who are driving the organizational culture. And, it's great when we can build it from the beginning, but sometimes we're not there at the beginning.
Absolutely.
And so I'm working right now with owner of a company. He has about 500 employees and about 300 contractors, so sort of a large mid-sized company. And his grandfather owned it, so, privately held company. His grandfather founded it. And he has realized that things need to change in this organizational culture because actually he's getting ready to start transitioning out. His sons and daughters and a nephew are going to be taking it over. And so I've been getting to work with them on what do we want to build into this culture to ensure that once Mark, the CEO, leaves, that it continues. And so one of the things that we've been talking about is this concept of resilience. And so I taught him this thing called a psychological sigh. Who knows what a psychological sigh is? One person. Awesome. Yay! All right. So a psychological sigh is you breathe in as deep as you possibly can. So like you feel it in your back ribs. Big, deep breath. And then at the top, when you think you can't take in any more breath, you take 3 little sips.
Can we try that? Can we do that?
Yeah.
Are you guys okay? Can we try that?
Let's stand up.
Stand up and try it. Let's do it. I want to know. I need to
Or
know.
you can do it where you're sitting. Either way.
Yeah, if you can't stand, don't worry.
You gotta stand up.
Breathe in as deep as you possibly can, all the way up to the top, and hold it. And now go. Good. I heard you. And now you're gonna release it, and you're gonna. I love to actually moan, and you're gonna like let it all out.
That was good.
Right? And so he decided he's taking this on. He's doing this, and with the and he's kind of a big guy. He's in his mid to late 60s. You can imagine the physicality of this human. And so he is doing this in his office with the door open.
Woohoo!
Right?
Yeah.
Because he wants to break the stigma.
Transparency.
Right? Of it's just all a lot sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, and he's the owner of the company. He's holding it all for everyone. And when he can normalize that, and that's so much of what this is about. When he can normalize that, man, it just gets to be a lot, then we begin to break the silence. We begin to get through that that stigma. And
how
say,
much more
I can do
likely is an employee to come to them and say, hey, I'm going through this thing because I saw you're probably going through a thing too.
Right.
Right? Instead of closing the door and doing behind closed doors and letting that ego get to us where we're not supposed to be vulnerable.
Looking good.
We're not supposed to be human. Right? Especially in C-suite roles. I gave my example of I just had a death in the family and was crying and it was not acceptable.
Yeah.
Right?
Bullshit.
So, exactly.
Bullshit.
BS. So if I can piggyback off of you onto some tactical ways, because I also am working, coming from a big business background, bringing it to small business and entrepreneurs and hoping and praying I can get to them before they've made some of those big mistakes. But I want to talk about tactical ways that you can bring that mental health into the workplace. You know, do you have an employee handbook, first of all, please?
And has it been written in the last 20 years?
Exactly. Right? In the last 20 years to include things such as a mental health policy, right? You know, it's huge. That's something I'd never seen in a handbook. Right. So talking about things like that, things that I help my clients with is like, well, I'm not at a place in my business where I can offer healthcare to everybody, to where maybe they have the healthcare to go see a therapist, right? So we talk about stipends a lot. Well, what can you do? Right. How many employees do you have? Can you offer them $50 a month in a stipend that they can use for mental health, a mental health stipend that they can use it that month? Maybe they need to go see a therapist. Maybe they need to go get acupuncture the next month. Maybe they need to take their child or a family member to an appointment, but you're giving them flexibility and freedom to use it how they want, and you're still tackling the issue. So that's a huge thing. Stipends are a huge thing. They're far easier to give out. And you can control your cash flow too by only reimbursing if they show you the receipt. So they can use it, but you're controlling your cash. If your employees aren't using it, then you're not just automatically giving it. Once they can show you that documentation, hey, I went to this appointment or whatever, you're reimbursing them through payroll. Please payroll deduct that. Properly. We're talking HR here too. So that's a huge thing that I like to talk about. And another big thing is, how often are you having performance reviews? And what do those look like?
What does that even mean?
What are those? I've talked to people that there's this whole concept now, well, we shouldn't have performance reviews because that boxes people in and they feel like they just don't want to know all these things. And it's like, no, how are you going to get a pulse on your people if you aren't sitting down with them at least once a month for a quick touch base? Right. It doesn't have to be an hour, once a month, at least half a year for a formal sit down, and then an annual review. But I think performance reviews are an underutilized tool for getting to know your people. The only way we're going to break silence is to getting to know each other and to be able to get in those spaces where we leave the door open, probably not for those, but we close the door. But that as a C-suite executive or as the business owner or the manager, however that's trickling down, that, you know, if your employee's talking to you, that you're going to give back a little too about your own vulnerabilities. So those are just a couple of tactical things. I just want to take on that really quick, just because allowing yourself to connect with your meal time, what you eat, and allowing your employees or the people who work with you to connect with that, you know, and make it a pressure. It's not like just eat whatever and go back to work, you know. So I would like to invite you all. I'm doing a course once a year, and this is it. It's going to be Foods That Make You Smile. It's going to be a 4-week course, and I'm giving it with my son who recovered from schizophrenia and depression. And we're going to be teaching about all the good foods that beat anxiety, depression, psychosis, and addiction. So you're all invited, and I have flyers. And just one more thing, since we're here in the tool thing, I'd like to invite everybody to get up, okay? And just to reclaim back to where you are when you feel lost. You know, I generally like to sing, okay? So I'm going to invite you all to sing. And this is something that came out one of these mornings where I was saying, is this a good day? I says, this is the best day of my life because I'm breathing. The
the best day of my life because my heart is beating. So I'm going to ask you all to experience this, to go back to yourself, because this is a little tool. You're going to get out of here, you're going to forget about a lot of things, but you're going to go back to this. This is the best day of my life because I'm breathing. This is the best day of my life because my heart is beating. This is the best day of my life because I'm breathing. This is the best day of my life because my heart is beating. Come on, everybody. You know something that we don't learn is get out of the shame. Get out of the shame because everybody's the same. Okay? This is the best day of my life because I'm breathing. This is the best day of my life because my heart is beating.
Thank you. That
right.
was awesome.
I'm going to say thank you. And I think also I saw like a time notification at one point, and if that's Kate, we're good?
He's like,
awesome.
yes,
So I saw you doing this. I was like, all right.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right. So Q&A, if anyone has any questions.
Yes, thank you.
And if not, I'm sorry if I made that really intense.
We've got a question. Cool.
I'm not sure if it's a question, but it's a good example, I think. When I stepped down from a company that I was running as a CEO in 2016, I had 4,500 employees in 120 countries. I had acquired 14 different companies during the time I was there. And one of the important things that you all have brought up is the CEO is a human being. You know, and so I had mental challenges. That's why I have 2 ex-wives. Right?
So you're not the guy I was looking for
Because-
tonight.
Sorry, you got cut.
Really noted.
but still, it's, you know, when you think about the stress that the C-suite is under,
Right.
Yeah.
especially when you want to do it in a way that you're compassionate.
Right.
Because sometimes you just got to put your foot down, and it's hard not to put your foot down.
Yeah.
But it brings about a lot of pain.
Yep.
Reward also, obviously, but it's, I can attest, and I had a heart attack in the middle of all this stuff. So, I mean,
I'm sorry.
it can wreck you. So I
That's the
applaud
end
you.
result, right? If we don't start talking about this.
That's it.
And I think you bring up something too. I think there's on the opposite side, the perception of the employees and the CEO, right? So it's breaking down the stigma both ways, that you are human. You're allowed to have error, make error, go through things and all of that. It's all about how transparent we are about it.
Yeah, I used to eat lunch with all the employees.
Yep.
I used to walk around headquarters,
Yep.
180 people, and I'd say hi to everybody twice a day.
Yes.
It was
Amazing.
1.4 miles.
Other great
Okay.
tacticals.
And then I always left my door open, and I had a big fish bowl on my coffee table full of M&Ms. And told people, please help yourself. If I'm not on the phone or not in a meeting, you're welcome to come in. But the fish bowl's in my office. It's not on, you know, my executive assistant's desk. It's in here. I want you to come say hi.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I just wanted to make sure that we all understand that it's not just the employees.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much.
Can I really quick just share one more tactical thing, just because it's important in the U.S. especially, where paid time off is regulated at a state level. So every state has
PTO
different
is not regulated
rules.
in Canada.
Oh, it's not?
No, I don't
I thought it
give
was
it.
better.
No. It was an option. I chose to do it.
Yeah. So it's depending on the state you live in the United States. So I hail from the Denver area, so I work a lot with the Colorado laws. So in Colorado, there is no legislation about giving vacation time, but there is legislation that you have to give sick time. But the legislation also reads that as long as you're giving sick time, you can make that better. So I'm teaching people, so turn it into PTO. Turn it into PTO where you're not questioning why they're taking it. Use what you already have to give. In Colorado, you have to give 48 hours of sick leave. But if you make it better, which making it PTO is better because they can use it for anything, leverage what you already have to work with. So I just wanted to throw that in really quick.
That's a wonderful tactic.
Yeah.
You ladies have been wonderful, and it's been very enjoyable. Talking about the CEOs, What do you do in a situation where the CEO doesn't realize that they're going through all this enormous stress and the employees,
you got a few of us already here.
And the employees are really seeing that. So I would love to hear your comments on that.
You go first?
Yeah, I'm like, let me go first, please,
Yeah,
please,
yeah,
please.
absolutely.
So again, after 30 years in corporate America, I learned probably 10 years in that my purpose and the way that I live my life had to be the way that I led as a C-level executive. So I am a servant leader. My teams know that if there is a problem, they're going to come to me. If they need tools, they're going to come to me. I am only there to make their jobs, their lives easier. So I will give you a quick tactic. As a leader, the higher up I went in corporate America, the less time I took off for PTO. Actually, ironically, I earned more time, but I took less. So the first thing I decided to do was take my own PTO and not just like not show up at the office. Like I would then post pictures from the Dominican Republic. Like I am out. I am taking a mental health day, right? I have
deposits.
I was making my own mental wealth deposit. And then I would suggest as a tactic, like recognition. So I don't know where it went. When I was coming up, like when someone did a good job, we like walked by them and like, hey, way to go, girl, you nailed that. That is worth $10 million to one of your employees. It didn't cost you anything. It took you 15 seconds. So if you lead by example, hey guys, I'm not gonna be in the office on Friday. I'm going for a spa day because we just finished month end and we're all looking a little, right? That's the best way. As a C-level executive, again, the gentleman that spoke before you, you're human first, right? And if you don't have emotions, then now we're sliding into that AI thing. Like, well, you know, who?
Oh, I have so much to say about
I know, but that's the challenge, right? People are like, well, let's just let the computers do it. The computers don't have any feelings. But you've got to be a person that leads with empathy and shows people how to check out and take their mental wealth seriously.
So I'm going to piggyback on that by saying a few personal items. So I'm stubborn, like many of us, I share right here. And I said I was brought up taking care of my mother. That is a very simplified way of saying my childhood. So the idea of even understanding I had emotions, I didn't even understand until I was 20. I had to go through about 10 years of counseling. And when I started teaching is when I started it, because I didn't want to bring in what I had to my kids. So that's actually what was the instigator. 2 years ago in COVID, we all were going through hell. I got pregnant. In Toronto, they closed schools for a year. My son was homeschooled. My son has ADHD. It's not a big deal. It's a big deal to talk about it. It's not a big deal in itself. I'm listing the stressors for you. I gave birth. I had postpartum. I didn't have a chance to deal with it. I was back at work because I had to lead, and I was the higher earning person in the family. And then there was a family emergency. I had to go back home to the States where I was born. I was born in Ohio. I went to New Mexico at that point, and it pulled me into being a non-POA for my dad who was dying. And you heard me say I took care of my mom. She was the POA. The reason I'm sharing all this is my team saw this on me. They saw me spiraling. And I was trying to take care of myself, but there was literally no time. I have sciatica, I have tinnitus, I have IBS. Hope that's not too much information.
A little bit.
All of this comes from when I didn't do what was right. What I should have done was take a leave of absence. And I didn't have the guts to do that. I was so scared of how it would look when really it would have looked like the human thing to do. And it trickled down. I am healing like my team from having seen me go through this. It sucks. I hate it. My COO, she's phenomenal. She runs the ship while, I do all the parts. She's amazing. It took until she noticed I was healing, like actually healing, and I started acting more like myself, for her to look at me and say, thank God. And then all of the stress she had carried started to come through. It had trickled down.
Yeah, and so just as a
Good or
tactic,
bad, it will trickle down.
when you're dealing with the CEO who's not aware of what they're going through. I love that story because it is having an impact on all their people.
Yep.
And so getting them present to the impact that they are not taking care of themselves, and this is what it's creating for your folk. Like, because that is often the thing that will get them like, oh, well, crap. Okay, I can't do that to my people. So I have to take better care of myself.
It cracked it through. It's probably one of my biggest regrets,
Yeah.
in truth.
But I know we gotta go because I see that. We're gonna wrap up.
Fair.
I see that. But I want to say though, I just want to encourage you because having gone through all of that, but you're on this stage changing thousands of lives,
I
and
hope.
people will see this forever. So don't forget about your mental wealth deposit and the fact that being on this panel has been a deposit for not just us on this panel, but everyone who saw you.
That's
So,
right. Well said,
thank you.
Sherry.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.